Value-based spending is a spending strategy that involves identifying areas of value and insignificance to you and spending accordingly. This can improve your quality of life, your relationship to money and spending, and even allow you to save money while still spending on things you care about. In this video, I'll walk you through the steps that you need to follow in order to practice value-based spending, and if you do follow them, you might be surprised at how quickly your life can change. Step 1 is to identify your core values. Now, to do this, it requires both self-reflection and honesty. There is no moral value to any of these values, nor is there a requirement for your core values to look like someone else's. The goal is simply to identify what ignites you, because the ultimate goal for value-based spending is to live a fuller, happier life. The key to value-based spending is to make it about you and let go of comparison. Most of the time when you're spending out of alignment with your values, it's for one of 3 reasons. First, it's that you lost touch with what you care about. Second, it's that you're trying to impress others either consciously or subconsciously. And third, it's that you make choices based on what you would consider the next step or normal progression, not based on intention. One exercise that can help you identify your core values is imagining your perfect day. From waking up to going to sleep at night, what would you do and where would you be? I recently lived a perfect day and I'll tell you what it looked like. I woke up outside camping somewhere new with my boyfriend in our rooftop tent. We went for a gorgeous hike and then got a burger and beer. I went home, made a nutritious dinner, and then we went to a concert. And after the concert, we came home to our home in the mountains. Your perfect day might be getting up, then going to brunch, and then going shopping. It might involve spending time with your toes dipped in the sand somewhere, or taking your kids to go get ice cream. The reason this exercise is so helpful is because it helps you see what you care about without the fluff of, well, that'd be nice. You'll notice my perfect day didn't involve any time at Hobby Lobby, and that's because home decor isn't really something I value. But it is something that I used to spend a lot of money on because I was getting a lot of outside noise that it was something that would make me happier. So write down 3 to 5 core values that you have. To give you an idea of what this could look like, I'll share mine. First is travel, meaning I value exploring new places as well as visiting family. Second is community. I want to be there with my friends and family, create new memories, and support them. Third is nourishment and health. I really want to live long and live strong. So spending on organic groceries and gear that supports my fitness aligns with this value. Fourth is experiences, especially live music or really good food. I feel most alive when I'm doing something rather than when I have something, and I especially love to see my favorite artists live. Fifth is security. I don't want to run out of money, so having financial security is an area that I value. These are things that I get to unabashedly spend on within my means when I'm using the value-based approach. And I like to highlight within your means because value-based spending does not mean unlimited spending. And you might be thinking, Sandra, I can't spend on things I value because they're not in my budget and I'm out of money. So the next step involves reevaluating your current spending so that you can recalibrate. In order to do this, you have to track your spending. This is a non-negotiable for value-based spending, and it's now your new habit. Unless you only spend in cash, then you don't need to wait for time to do this because you can go back and track your spending based on previous statements. And this is something that you'll do at least once a week from here on out. This is because we have to check in with both our values and our lifestyle choices regularly in order to make sure they're aligning. You also can't spend on areas of value unless you know how much you have to spend at all, and knowing what's coming in and out of your accounts is critical. I have a budget template linked down below that allows you to track your income, set targets, and monitor your expenses all in one spot. And it's something to consider if you're just getting started. Tracking my expenses is the #1 thing that helps me stay on target and stay on track. But in order to truly practice value-based spending, you're not just going to track your expenses, but you're going to participate in the next step, which is categorize expenses by value. Go back through your electronic statements and categorize them. Create a category for each of your value areas and then one for not a value. And then sort every single expense that you made in a month into these categories. This will allow you to see exactly how much money you're spending on things you just don't care about. Before I started practicing value-based spending, I was living off $1,000 a month in Denver. I could never go out to see my friends because I didn't have the money. When I started looking at my spending, I realized I was spending on convenience food, to-go coffees, and impulse purchases at Target. Usually it was clothes that fit like trash after one wash. But because I was spending on these things, I wasn't able to create memories with my friends, and I was really lonely. So recognizing how your expenses contribute to your quality of life means identifying what you're spending on that's misaligned. And then the next step is to set spending priorities. Look at your priorities and your current spending and decide which categories deserve more and which can be reduced or eliminated. When I cut out low value areas, I was able to free up money to put towards my own financial security, spending time with other people, travel, my other value areas. It felt physically better because I was eating more nutritious meals at home rather than grabbing convenience items out. And I actually ended up spending less overall because I wasn't spending money to fill a hole. I actually felt genuinely more fulfilled in life. There will be things that may not be a value area that you do have to spend on. For example, your rent, transportation, groceries. If it's not a value, then it's important to look at how you're spending in those areas impacts your overall financial picture. I mentioned in my perfect day that one of the things that was special was coming back to our home in the mountains. Of course, we're not spending outside of our means for this home, but we were willing to spend a little bit more on this property because it's something that we valued. If we didn't value our living location, we probably would have saved money and and lived in the city. Maybe you realize that you don't really care how you get from point A to point B, but you have a $1,000 a month car payment for a big fancy rig you bought because you thought it was the next step. Maybe you're not like us and you don't spend much time in your space, but you splurged on a 2-bedroom apartment because you're supposed to spend that much on housing, right? Now you're spending more money than you need to on areas that are necessary, sure, but not something you value. How would your quality of life change if you had a more basic car, but were able to spend $600 a month more freely? Or what if your apartment didn't have fancy new amenities, but you had an extra $1,000 every month? This is the power of spending intentionally. So the question is, are you ready to do it? Your final step is to create a value-based budget. Practicing a zero-based budget is, in my opinion, the best way to make sure that your values are funded without overspending. If you want to learn more about zero-based budgeting, you can check out my other videos. The basic concept is that you give every single dollar a job. So once you know your income, you have to first allocate money towards those non-negotiable expenses: rent, utilities, groceries, debt. Then allocate what's left of your money to high-value categories. This doesn't have to go out the door. Security is something that I value, so I make sure to put extra money towards my debt, investments, and savings. These sound like boring things that weren't exciting before, but once I identified them as a value area, it's so much more meaningful to put my money in this direction. Now, even if security isn't something you value, I definitely recommend creating some of it. Maybe you won't do it as aggressively as I am or as the next person. Use your budget to reflect on your values and reduce or eliminate low value areas. This will free up resources for the things that truly matter. Then take your budget and practice mindful spending. You can set this all up and never touch it again. Then you aren't actually practicing it. There are 2 key things that will help you keep up with value-based spending, and the first we already talked about. Regularly tracking your expenses will ensure that you're staying on track with targets, and it'll help you reflect on your purchases. But value-based spending isn't just reactive. We have to be proactive too. For every purchase, stop and ask yourself, what value category does this go to? Does this bring me closer to my values and goals? These simple questions can help prevent impulse purchases and reinforce intentional spending habits. Like I said, my life is fuller, richer, and more exciting because I practice value-based spending. I think this is a great method, but it's up to you to try it out.